If you ever go to the zoo and you are close enough to an animal where you could touch, my department is handling that. I'm Sarah. I'm one of the supervisors of Wild Encounters. I started in education and then got into Wild Encounters probably about 1.5 years ago. Wild Encounters is just the zoo's big department that handles and facilitates human-animal interactions. We are interpreting for the animals who cannot speak about themselves, essentially, is our role.
We go out and we hold reptiles and birds and mammals. We also run different stations throughout the zoo, so the goat yard, the kangaroo valley area, the Galapagos tortoise encounter, things like that, where people can go in there and get close enough to touch them. And then we also do presentations. Our tagline essentially is getting people close enough to care. The overall most interactive station, in my opinion, would probably be Kangaroo Valley. The kangaroos are moving back and forth. It is literally all day. We have not only the kangaroos, but we also have the little blue penguin. So our chats at the zoo are essentially, they are species dependent.
We update those chats pretty frequently, and there's always more stuff in that than what you're gonna give during the physical chat.
The most effective chat is probably the elephant chat. A lot of times while we're talking about the elephants, they're doing natural behaviors that we're interpreting it on the fly, and people really love seeing a really large herbivore interacting with its habitat.
We have something called RAEs, which is random animal encounters. So that's one of our biggest ones. Anytime someone is animal handling, and we're going out to different spots where you might not see animals. So gift shop, welcome center. We are just meeting guests that happen to be walking by those spots. Trying to keep guests engaged sometimes can be a little bit tough. You have to kind of learn how to do it. So every single chat is different. Every time you give it, you're never gonna give the same chat twice. If you see a group of people that are at your chat and it's all school group kids, maybe you aren't gonna talk about those really difficult words that they might not understand yet.
We target any age group. We target anyone that really has ears and is gonna listen. So that's everyone from a 4-year-old that is feeding a giraffe for the first time and is astounded by how long their really dark tongue is and how it licks their hands as they grab the lettuce, all the way up to a senior citizen that is just getting their steps in at the zoo. We get a lot of really simple questions. Things like, what do they eat? How long do they live? And then you get someone who, very unassumingly knows a lot about the species. We can go into it thinking that, hey, I'm the expert with all the answers, but then someone humbles you and says, hey, you know what, there's more out there. So it's always good to readjust and reassess.
I love it when people ask me questions, whether it's little kids just raising their hands and they're like, I have a stuffed elephant at home. That's really cool. I love being able to recognize just people who are willing to speak up and out in a group setting, because that's not everybody wants to do that. Something that we do reoccurringly, which I've done before and it's really amazing, we go to Seacrest Studios at Cincinnati Children's. So it's kind of just like a in-house TV radio station that they have just for the patients at Children's Hospital. And we go and we do Wild Wednesdays is what they call it. And we take an animal and they have some patients come in that are in-house or inpatient. They just get to meet an animal, talk to this animal, but then it's also being aired to every single patient room. So all the kids there get to interact with that animal, whether they're there or just watching on TV.
No matter how old or how young you are, you're on this earth like the rest of us, and you can have an impact on wildlife every day, regardless.
Summer, always busy, no matter what, it's always gonna be busy. Sometimes you don't have the best interactions with guests. You want all interactions to be great, but sometimes you might give a rule or you might tell people like, hey, I'm actually gonna wait a second before I let you in, and they might not be the most receptive. Each safety protocol that we have in place is for the animal safety, guest safety, but then also for our staff safety. A kangaroo is gonna react differently if you go to pet them than a goat is. For all of those stations, we have a protocol that has to go through those keeper departments just to make sure that we are all on the same page about things. We wanna make sure people are following the rules, but also we don't wanna be like hounding on them. We also want to be answering questions and feeding that natural curiosity. One of the biggest things for us is just being able to talk to people. I've always been able to talk to people, but just being able to talk to huge groups of people and just doing it like it's nothing, I feel like for me that's something that is really important. Being able to share my passion with someone.
The zoo is always changing, no matter what, because the world is changing. The messaging is always changing. The problems are always morphing and changing.
We've learned a lot of things within the past few years that we thought this might actually be the right way, but then we found out like, oh no, that actually isn't. I like when things are changing. I feel like I can always adapt to something like that. We are trying to get people to get passionate and to care about wildlife. They don't know all of the things that we do about biodiversity and climate change and all the ways that like we can help with conservation. We want people to be invested in the future of the world.
I think we have a good impact right now, and I'd love to see that just expand.
I think that our role right now is really important, and I think that that is something that's always going to be like the core of what we do, is just exposing them to something that they might not have ever known about before.